Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the newspapers, and we have the whole set right here waiting to be served to you. Stay with us, and of course, tell a friend to tell a friend. That is going down here on the AM show. Thank you. Let me now engage our special guest of honor who is going to be delivering the keynote address. I'm just kidding. He's joining us for the conversation this morning. Kojo Poku. I like to pull pranks like that. Kojo, a very good morning to you.
I think if your hosting thing doesn't go well, let's look at comedian. What do you think? Comedy
You got me there. You got me there. You know,
I'm actually. Bro. How are you?
I am very well. I'm very well.
You know, that picture of me and you, I posted it, and I'm getting a lot of fans. So I'm keeping all the applauses.
Okay, I was just about to mention. So I was at this PURC event recently, 25th anniversary, and guess whom I met there as a panel member, Kojo Poku. And of course, my good old friend was delivering some very insightful stuff. Keep it up, Kojo. But two things before we get into the papers. The first has to do with energy prices and where they are going. I was in Lomé, Togo, just a few days ago. And I was coming through, when I was coming through Ghana, I was just looking at the prices, like, through different regions, entering all the way to Accra. And I was scared, I was shocked. And now, in some places, it's as high as almost 20 cedis, 19 something, almost 20 cedis. And we're told in the next pricing window, it's going to go up again. So I don't know. Government has also said, Mr. President has said that they're going to find means of getting cheaper crude, bringing it into the country for the OMCs and all of that. What do you think of all of this?
Well, good morning to your listeners and your viewers. I think the fundamental problem that we all know exists is the cost of the cedi to the dollar. Like I said last week, we can have all the meetings, we can have all the consultations, but the bottom line is the provision of hard Forex to the OMCs and the BDCs. As it stands now, the OMCs and the BDCs are no longer able to wait for the forward pricing in terms of the 2 weeks window. So because the dollar to the cedi is very erratic, and it's been stable over the last week because of the consultations that went on. But the fact still remains that the banks are pricing their dollar very expensive. Bank of Ghana is not able to provide all that the BDCs and the OMCs need. I'm told that they are looking to do something like $120 million a week or something like that for the OMCs. I don't have the figures right. I might be wrong. But the issue is that we need something around $300 million a month. Okay.
I thought it was about 100 million, and they were paying about a quarter of that. That is 25 million. It's now 300 million.
Well, the monthly amount that we need, like I said, the numbers is muffled in my head a little bit, but let's just use percentages. In terms of what the Forex in terms of what the OMCs and the BDs need, the Bank of Ghana is only providing about 1/3 to a quarter of what they need. So They need to go and find the rest.
Okay, so that feeds into what I have, which is about 25%. So that feeds into
exactly. Yeah. So the Bank of Ghana is not providing all of them. Okay, so the OMCs and the BDCs need to go and find the rest from the banks. The banks are pricing their dollar very high. So if Mr. President said he met with them last week and had a conversation with them, I think Mr. President should meet with them again. Because as at yesterday, I can confidently tell you that the black market was far cheaper, in some cases, 1 cedi, 50 cedis cheaper than the banks. Some banks are quoting me 4 cedis, 90 pesos. 14 cedis, 90 pesos. Some banks are quoting me 14 cedis, 40 pesos. Meanwhile, the black market guy is quoting me 13.2. So clearly, the banks are the problem. So if we can't get
they are part of the problem. They are part of the problem, not the problem.
Part of the problem, yes, I will agree. They are part of the problem, but they are the bigger part of the problem. Because I would only because bear in mind, as businessmen, Ben, for us to transfer money, we do it through our banks. So if the bank can readily give me dollar, and some of these dollar they are supposed to give me is supposed to be what they call offshore dollar. Offshore dollar is cheaper than when I want money like hard cash to withdraw dollar. So that one, they charge you a certain percentage on top of the exchange, okay? But if I want to transfer money, they use their offshore positions to transfer that money. They are selling these offshore positions very expensive. Why the banks are doing that, I have no idea. Maybe they also are trying to survive. But back to our conversation, the petrol prices and diesel prices are still high because the Forex prices are still high. We will only see a reduction in the OMC and the BDC prices when the banks reduce their Forex. We've had the conversations, like I said, but the basic conversation is that the dollar to the cedi is around 14.4 and 14.9 in the banks. And when people told me last week that, oh, all these prices were speculation, I keep telling them that it was not speculation. Now, the chicken has come home to roost. We found out that it's not speculation. The banks are pricing at 14.9.
Well, interesting stuff. We'll see how that pans out. Two quick things I want to run by you before I get into the daily graphic. Just very quickly, Kojo. So what is your quick reaction to the president's speech on Sunday, what he said generally about the economy? Most people felt it was bland, it lacked bite. I had KKD in the studio yesterday, he said it was a failure. What do you think? Others think he delivered. What is your take? And then, on the back of same, when I'm sure Kwesi Cheja is at least an acquaintance of yours as well, he told me yesterday that from everything that is happening, the president is in office, but he's not in power. He's in office, but he's not in power. In other words, he doesn't have his hands on the reins as far as the country is concerned. What is your quick take on these two? The address and whether he's in power?
I wouldn't go as far as saying that he's in office, not in power. Look, the president is in power, he's in charge of this nation, and he's on top of what's going on. There is a lot that has gone under him, basically gotten away from him, let's use that word. Look, in terms of most of the things that he talked of, those are some of the things which some of us have been talking about since 2013, okay? Things like getting the oil companies to deposit their monies in Ghana, things like we having to have a certain percentage of all receivables being paid through Ghana. We've been saying this to Petroleum Commission since 2013. So for me, I think we should stop coming up with solutions when we are in problems. These solutions are on the tables of all these politicians from day one. They know them. Some of the things the president said about the export regime prioritizing certain exports, those are things that Kojo Poku went to Ministry of Trade about 10, 15 years ago and argued the chief director on it. And they will tell you about WTO liberalization of trade and all those things. So it's not like they don't know about these things already. They just don't care and they don't just want to implement them. It's only when we are in crisis that people all of a sudden found wisdom to say these things. The other thing I would also put out is this. The oil price, the cheaper oil that the president says that is going to come. We are praying that he knows something we don't know. Because as far as we are concerned, all prices of oil around the world is the same. If he's having a conversation,
well, maybe we could find a way of. I mean, we've had countries in Africa even exploring South Africa, thinking of going for Russian oil, regardless of the embargoes on them by the West and all of that. Maybe that's the option. Maybe that's what he's thinking of. But it would have consequences, of course.
Let me tell you what the better option would have been if we had a very good relationship with Nigeria. I was part of President Kufuor's delegation to Nigeria back then when Obasanjo was helping us with cheaper oil and discounted oil and giving it to us for much longer tenure, 90 days. Okay, and I was part of that conversation. Today, Nigerians don't want to hear anything from Ghana because we are aiding and abetting people who are stealing their crude. When you saw that documentary of that bag that was arrested in Nigeria, the destination of that stolen crude was Tema. So in this country, the ports, not only are we allowing people to bring the crude in, we are looking away and not even reporting it. Stolen crude, any country that receives stolen crude, it has broken international law. Okay, but look, Nigeria could have helped us. But because they are also having challenges with stolen crude and their numbers have dropped, they cannot help you. So if you have helped Nigeria to fight their stolen crude, because in the maritime waters, we could have been helping them to arrest these people who are bunkering stolen crude on our waters. Also stop them being brought into our shores. Then we could have gone to Nigeria like we did between 2001 and 2009 to now say, big brother, help us with cheaper fuel and cheaper crude.
But here's an interesting point. Here's an interesting point, Kojo. The Nigerians themselves are struggling with crude prices. I mean, their prices are far lower than ours. But in recent times, I don't know whether you followed, there's been talk about hiking the prices up and all of that. So I don't know where this comes from.
Because people are stealing you saw the documentary of these people siphoning their pipes. So they have pipelines that people have put pipes in there and siphoning those crude and selling that crude out of the country. Now, those stolen crude destination is Tema. So my point is,
you're saying that all of them are destined for Tema?
Not all of them, but the ones that were arrested. The ones that were arrested, the destination for that ship that was arrested was Tema. There's a video. I'm sure you've seen that on social media. Okay? But what I'm saying is that we are brothers, ECOWAS brothers. We should help Nigeria fight this militant stealing of crude thing. If we do that, if the people don't have anywhere to take the crude, then it will be difficult for them to steal it because there's no one to buy. If there's a ready market of Nigerian crude in Ghana, then it's easier for the people in Nigeria to steal the crude and bring it here. And the officials, security, national security, everybody is looking away, and this crude is coming into our country, though albeit stolen. So my point is that we have not helped Nigerians to curb the stealing of crude. Maybe if we don't take it, somebody else will take it. But our hands will be clean. And like I said, we can go back to Nigeria and have a conversation with Nigeria like we did with Obasanjo back then. Okay,
so in not more than 30 seconds, what was your reaction to Mr. President's address? I mean, just 30 seconds. Were you excited?
Look, it was to give us confidence. And I think it gave some people confidence. Some people didn't see any confidence in it. For me, I thought, well, it's about time. I think he should have done it a week earlier. Because when we were and some of us knew that problem was there, and we sounded it, but everybody looked away. So I think it should have been done.
Do you think it was a death blow that the former president addressed the nation on the economy before our president did?
No, but the president, the economy, the budget presentation, we'll hear what is in there. But for me, look, it is a reassuring speech. It came. Now we have a new term in town. It's giving us a new term. So now, if you start shouting like my brother, be careful. I need to learn the French version. Sound much posher.
So how? What's going to be your? I mean, what will be the paycheck if I teach you how to do it? I can teach you both versions. KKD's version and Nanado's version.
You cannot say the French version. I dare you to say it now.
Monsieur, are you daring me? L'argent n'aime pas le bruit, and you think I can say that?
L'argent n'aime pas
le bruit. Money doesn't like noise. And KKD's version is l'argent n'aime pas d'odeur. In other words, sikampe,
so you're good at French.
I'm surprised you don't know. How many years have you known me now? We've been friends for how long? You're now realizing it.
French. I have my own French. At the end of the show, I'll tell you my French.
I hear you. All right, Kojo, let's get into the papers. So, restoring confidence in the economy. Trade business groups hold crunch meetings. There's been the AGI, industry has met with Mr. President and they uphold President's request to come on board. So members of trade and business associations have started high-level discussions among themselves on how to carry through some of the President's requests for support to revive the economy in the short term. Since yesterday, members of the Association of Ghana Industries have been locked up in discussions on how to ramp up the production of some essential products such as vegetable oil, rice and poultry in response to the president's call for local substitutes. We're talking about import substitution. The discussions among members of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, on the other hand, are on how to increase exports from the country in order to rake in foreign exchange, while the Ghana Union of Traders Association is also impressing on its members on how to stem the increasing prices of goods and services resulting from the economic crisis. Let me halt there because we're engaging these three groups this morning on the show. But how feasible, Kojo, are all of these? Import substitution. So in other words, don't bring in this, produce it locally. If it's tomato paste, let's do this, let's do that. I think it's too little too late because we've been importing tomatoes from Burkina Faso for how long? Yes, they have a certain variety that is more juicy. Why have we sat down? We've been importing toothpicks for how long? These frozen products. You remember Akoko Dako? You remember him?
Yes.
Daco Farms
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
Our poultry
my
industry.
uncle. Yes.
Our poultry industry. Where you see, sometimes when some of these things come up, I just cringe because we've been sitting on this time bomb for a long time, and the knee-jerk reaction. Something happens, then we try to, but we've always had the solutions. We sit down and wait. Quick reactions.
Well, and then you ask yourself, who's the Minister of Trade? Then everybody now wants.
Are you faulting the Minister of Trade?
I don't know. I know who the Minister of Trade is, but I'm saying that let's ask ourselves who's the Minister of Trade. And everybody gives the flag to the Vice President that, he's the one that is responsible for the woes of this country. Where are the ingenuity? Where are the innovative thinking in the last 6 years at the Ministry of Trade? Okay? Look, I said. So you're
taking on Alan Chermante. You think he's not lived up to expectation?
He has not. No, he has not lived his expectation.
That's interesting because Mr. President counts him as one of his best ministers.
Hold on, listen to me. You just enumerated things that we have known for so many years, and now in the midst of all this, we are taking a knee-jerk approach, okay, to now have these meetings and having this conversation. He has been there for 6 years. What stopped him from implementing these things? That's the truth. And I won't take back the charts. You understand? He has been there for 6 years. Look, like I said to you, I have been to the Ministry of Trade and had a confrontation with the chief director. Because my position was this. We have companies in Ghana that are suffering. Meanwhile, we have so much of a trade liberalization that encourages everything that is being produced in Ghana to also be imported. Starting with Coca-Cola, starting with all the fruit juices and stuff that people are producing in the country. Where are the protection for local industry? Okay, my position on this matter has always been that let the government take the custom list, look at the 10 top imports into this country, then give yourself a 5-year or 4-year or 3-year moratorium and say, look, all companies that are importing within this the top 5, let's call it top 5, all the companies importing these top 5, that is basically taking our Forex. Let's look at a 3-year program to start manufacturing these things locally. One of them will be milk. Farm milk, how many years has it been in this country? Farm milk imports milk into this country. Where do you get milk? Cow, moo. How difficult is it to rear cows? The Amahia dairy farm sits here, right? And now they're beginning to sell the land back to the Ghana people. Why? We have all the chemicals. Certain things that are derivative from Tema Oil Refinery can give you some of those derivatives if Tema Oil Refinery is working well. We have rice. We started with some noise on Ghana-made rice. It was becoming a big thing. All of a sudden, that is going down the drain. So there is certain things that we could have done. Look, the 1D1F, let me tell you the whole concept. And along the line, everybody's gotten it wrong. The 1D1F was to be driven by demand. So you look at, like I said, you take the top 5. Look at these things that we are importing, most of that can be done locally. Then have an industry in a place in Ghana to now meet that demand so that it becomes a district and a factory. It's not just that 1D1F and we don't even know the factories that people are putting up. People are putting up anything and calling it 1D1F. What demand is it solving? So if you tell me that, look, people want to come back and have ambitions and do some of these things, everybody just wants to look at people and say, oh, fatano, you need fritati and all these things and clap for them. Let's look at track record in the last 6 years and solutions they have preferred. You can't keep quiet and look handsome and think that you can be a leader of this country. I'm sorry.
All right, so you have taken issue with the trades minister and you have enumerated. I mean, I started pointing to some of the failures in our system. Why we're always, look, even when COVID hit, we're now scampering all around to produce face masks when the Chinese started hoarding. They weren't delivering to the rest of the world because they also had their own needs. We said we were creating an industry on the back of our clothing industry, you get it, to produce masks and the rest. What has happened to that? So you see,
yeah,
we react knee-jerk, it has happened. We react and then we go to sleep.
Exactly, but let me even give you a good point. Even after COVID, the masks that we were producing during COVID were very fanciful and were very nice, right? It's not like people have stopped using face masks around the world. What's happened to the production of these face masks in Ghana? What has happened? Just because we don't do, there's no COVID, that doesn't mean that there's no need for face masks around the world. Are we exporting these face masks? No, we are not. So look, the two key pillars of our economy is trade and finance. Those are the two key pillars. Agric comes in, but even under agric, you realize that trade now overshadow agric. So you now realize that you need innovative ideas in our trade sector. And we haven't seen any. The only big idea coming out of trade is 1D1F. And like I said, it's even been implemented wrongly.
Okay. Now, here's the interesting bit. Staying on the economy, when you go to page 20, President's measures inadequate, according to three policy analysts. I'm talking about Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor Joseph Achu, IE, and Dr. George Asekere, who is with the University of Education Winneba. The others are with the University of Ghana. And they have reasons. They have said that the measures outlined by the president to resolve the economic crisis are inadequate and fail to address some fundamental issues. According to them, the measures did not show how to achieve the objective of restoring confidence in the economy and hope in the people. The policy analysts, like I've mentioned, are those that I spoke of. But they address some core issues. For example, a lean government. There was no talk about reducing the numbers. KKD, when he spoke to me yesterday, spoke about that. And many people have said that we can cut the size of our government down to about 65, 60 ministers. Even Nigeria, big as it is, doesn't have a gargantuan, public service, at least at the ministerial level, like we have it. So what exactly is going on? Then there's the bit about austerity interventions and no haircut. Mr. President said there would be no haircut. We've heard from Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma explaining that it's not an all-size-fits-all kind or one-size-fits-all kind of situation. But it's getting interesting because I'm getting some feedback from some people who have investments in the banks and about some things that are happening. I don't know whether the haircut is happening already. Quick take on that.
Well, there are two sides to every government. There's expenditure and there's revenue. One of the things that some of us have said is that you cannot looking at revenue without cutting down on the expenditure. The expenditure side needs to be looked at greatly. In the president's speech, he said that we are still going to pursue the infrastructure gap. That has been one of the fundamental problems. We feel that we need to do certain infrastructure quickly within the shortest possible time, which is creating this deficit in our treasury. Okay, so we really need to review the expenditure side, cutting down on ministerial appointments, cutting down on even, look, in most state-owned enterprises that never had deputies, now have 3 or 4 deputies. It's unheard of. Some of these state-owned enterprises were only managed by managing directors. Now they have 3 deputies. Then you have all these managing, ministries that now have multiple deputies. And most of them don't really do much. So yes, the expenditure of government needs to be looked at. We've heard of all the projects that, for me, I think should be reviewed. But the president is sticking to it and saying that, look, these are his core mandates and he will deliver them. But at what cost? Okay, so as much as we look to boost revenue, definitely we should look at our expenditure of the government and reduce that drastically. And it's the only way. Fitch Solutions, one of the think tanks around, have given that advice to government that you need to reduce your expenditure to basically save the economy. That's the only way. The other side of, what was the second one again?
On what? So they spoke about the haircut. Have you addressed the haircut situation?
Yeah, the banks, well, we heard that the bonds, people who have investment in the banks and the bonds and stuff like that, I've read somewhere that they are only looking at the principals, but you might have to negotiate the interest or whatever that comes on top of that. I'm not privy to much of that, so I wouldn't want to comment.
Right. I am actually dealing with one such institution, but I am, in fact, a number of them, but I'm still in the investigative stage. So I also just keep it there and see whether any haircuts are happening from the banking sector. But on the back page, quickly, Qatar to break gender barrier in refereeing. So guess what? In case you didn't know, the first Winter World Cup is happening in Qatar. It's also the first World Cup in the Middle East, first techno ball embedded with microchips to assist the VAR system, first semi-automated offside technology, first compact World Cup. So all the stadia are within a 55-kilometer radius. So you can imagine, you don't have to travel far. This year's tournament will also break the gender barrier. Now, there are the likes of Rwandan Salima Mukasanga, who is going to be, and so these females are going to actually be the main referees. They are not going to be assistant referees, what we used to call linesmen or women and all of that. They're going to be the main ones in the thick of the action. And this is a novelty as well. For the 33-year-old Mukasanga, she became the first woman to officiate at the Africa Cup of Nations in the group stages. We also have the likes of Stephanie Frappard and Yamashuta Yoshimi. All of them, I mean, Americans, Brazilians, all of them in there. So quite a number of females will be reffing some of these matches. And FIFA has made it clear, Infantino has made it clear that it is not just because they are women, it is because they are qualified to do this. And I love that fact that has been re-echoed.
Well, my quick take on that will be, normally when referees make very controversial decisions, the players now rush them and go right in their face. I want to see when that happens with the female referee, because now you might now be, you understand? Because no, but you see, it's okay when you are that in the face of a male referee. If all the players now start going in the face of a female referee, how would that be seen around the world? So that's some of the things that we need to be careful of, because, as much as it's good to have gender balance in most of the sports, because, look, the female football is 90 minutes, the male football is 90 minutes. I don't see why the female referees cannot referee male games. There's nothing wrong with that. But my take will be the funny confrontation that happens with some of the aggressive footballers who normally goes in front of referees and insult them anyhow and throw them off. We want to see how that will pan out when we have female referees.
Let's quickly do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I'll improve access, quality, healthcare delivery before end of tenure. That's according to Mr. President. But Mr. President, I want to remind you that the La Hospital, it was razed to the ground. They still have no hospital. People there are constantly lamenting the situation. So as you go about the other activities, please remember the people of La. Anti-LGBTQI plus bill to be passed before 2024 election. The Speaker has assured, but some have not responded positively to that. And you remember that bill. It may be not so high on the radar anymore, but it is out there. FDA warns public against Ascot diet products. So the FDA, this story is on page 4. The FDA has warned the general public against the use of Ascot diet. It's a brand. According to the FDA, the Ascot diet, a weight loss product produced by the Ascot Diet Clinic, has not been registered by the authority. These were contained in a statement issued by the FDA and copied to the Ghanaian Times over the weekend. So you go for it, know that there is no certification on that. It shouldn't even be on the market. That's the whole thing, because it doesn't have legitimacy. It shouldn't be there. No haircut, good for financial market. Public reacts to president's address to the nation. That's it. Quick reactions?
Well, yeah, I think FDA should have a very big monitoring out there, because there are some of these things that are not supposed to be on the market, that we find them on the market. I don't know what the monitoring part of FDA is doing, but I think FDA should up their game and save us from some of these dangerous chemicals that are out there.
Let's look at the Daily Guide newspaper now, and some very interesting stories there as well. Government to partner Rand refinery. That story is on page 6. We're talking about the energy sector, so quickly on that. Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia says government is ready to collaborate with the board and management of Rand Refinery to help Ghana obtain London Bullion Market Association certification, underscoring the importance of the LBMA certificate to the government's plan to develop the mineral industry and make Ghana a key player in the refinery of mineral resources. Dr. Bawumia said attaining the certification would propel Ghana to participate and exploit fully the benefits in the mineral value chain. There's also Ekumfi Chief's disowned Mankasim killer. You remember him, the one who, together with a pastor, had killed about 4 people. But there's also IMF-rooted financial sector cleanup. That story is on page 3. And Nana warns traders on greedy profits. You remember on Sunday, he spoke about the fact that he hesitates to call them names. I found that very interesting. And he said that the traders should, cut down their margins, not want exploitative margins. Quick reactions?
Yes. Yesterday, I granted an interview on that note. Look, one of the things that Bank of Ghana should also do is to provide a lot of coins. When we redominated our currency, something interesting happened. We took 10 cities, we took 10,000 cities and make it one city. Now, when we had 10,000 cities, if somebody is to increase a price, he will probably increase the price by 2,000 or increase the price by 4,000, which in today's terms is either 20 pesos or 40 pesos. Now, it's difficult for people to increase prices by 20 pesos and 40 pesos because at the back of their mind, they need to find change for people. So we realize that people are only doing incrementals of either 50 or 1. And mostly they go for 1. So they increase by 2 cities, they increase by 3 cities, but if you increase by 2 cities, you are increasing by 20,000 Ghana cities, 20,000 old cities, which is crazy. So that is the problem that we have in our markets. If we had the old money, which was 10,000, which is 1 city, you will not increase a product by 20,000 Ghana cities back then. Right. You increase it by 5 cities or increase it by 2,000 cities. So Bank of Ghana should look into that by providing coins and change to make sure that when people are selling, they are able. It's only in Ghana that you enter a shop. Then the favorite word from the ladies at the counter is like, oh, I'll owe you 50 pesos. Oh, yeah. I'll owe you 30 pesos. Oh, I'll owe you. Why do you want to owe me?
Right.
Meanwhile, if you have to make up the change, they'll ask you, oh, Master, I count 30 pesos. Then you have to walk to your car and find the 30 pesos and bring it. Meanwhile, if they have to give you 30 pesos, oh, boss, metal car 30 pesos. Why?
Anyway.
So it's a problem. That area is a problem. So we need to look at that. That is a fundamental problem in our markets. And that is why prices go up in incremental of 50 and 1, which is a very difficult thing. Now, the Rand refinery thing, I think the vice president was talking about gold refinery.
Yes, he was. Not. It wasn't oil. When I read the details.
Yes, the gold refinery. So we are looking to refine our gold locally to boost the added value that we've been trying to do for a long time. So I think that's a good thing in the right direction.
Right. Let's quickly look at a few stories. I want us to do some business stories in the next minute. But before that, quick reactions to this. Akufo-Addo considering cutting ministers, says Opon Kroma, that is the information minister. KKD sat here with me yesterday and said that, look, all the deputy ministers should be cut off. All deputy ministers. I don't know what your take is on that. And that is the Chronicle newspaper I was just addressing. Akufo-Addo considering cuts in ministers, says Opon Kroma. Then there's 3.8 million Ghanaians lack safe drinking water. That's according to the minister, sector minister. And then in the Finder newspaper, 87.5% of Ghanaians say country is headed in the wrong direction. 87.5%. And that's the latest Afrobarometer survey. They've been doing this for decades, and that is what they say. Quick reactions to that, and then we'll just do some business stories and get out of here.
I always find it a bit difficult when people say that ministers should be removed, reduced, and all that. Look, the work of government, if you understand how government works, you would really be hesitant in agreeing that we should reduce the ministers. Because if you take the ministers out, then what happens to the sectors that they oversee? If you take out the deputy ministers, what happens to the work that they are supposed to do to help the minister? The problem is that they have not delivered. If remember the famous word, I'm in a hurry, so I want to achieve a lot, and that's why I appointed 149 ministers. And, the issue is that the ministers were appointed.
But have we got the results from the hurry and the appointment of these ministers? Have we got the results from them?
Exactly, we didn't get a result. So for me, we should go to look at the end, not the means. The end is that the end does not justify the means in this case, because we had 149 ministers and we've not gotten the results. But how do we now make that work? Because my fear in when we say reduce ministers, if we reduce those ministers in those sectors, what happens to the sectors? Because it's not like there are ministers who are sitting around doing nothing. There are ministers in charge of sectors. And if we reduce those ministers, are we going to amalgamate these ministries? Then it becomes too big to control.
Okay.
So my focus should be in getting results and putting in measures to make sure that ministers deliver. And if they don't, you sack them and replace them. That is the solution. Reducing ministers.
Let's just end with this. So, Economy Times, the thrust of your messages is quite clear. Economy Times, CD begins to recover after months of free fall, but the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says over-reliance on monetary policy to fight inflation stabilize the CD not working. And I want you to digest this. Fuel price overtakes minimum wage, first in history. And when you look at the minimum wage is 13 cedis, 53 pesos. But of course, fuel prices are around, diesel is selling at close to 20 cedis. At the fuel pumps, even Save, what do they even call it? Super Save is selling at 17 cedis something, and the rest, depending on where you're going. Quick reaction to this, 30 seconds, I have to get out of here.
Well, we need to do more than just the monetary policies in trying to now look. We need to show up the city in the system. We need to show up the city to gain strength by basically bringing more forex liquidity for the companies. Then we need to look at changing the guard. That I don't know why the president is refusing that. He needs to change his ministers.
Kojo, you fancy hey ya? So why would him that?
But that me say meka assembly actual Sika Nepala.
Sika mpede o. Kojo, what does
Sika? My one is Sika Nepala.
Sika Nepala.
That means
money is not there, or what?
Sika Nepala, there's no money. That's my French for the day. Sika Nepala.
Sika Nepala. Okay, that's
Sika
your
Nepala.
rendition. As for me, I say Ishuru. Sika mpede. Thank you so much, Kojo Poku, for joining the conversation. And we wish you the very best of the day. That is Kojo Poku, an energy analyst. But coming up in sports, we'll be telling you about Asante Kotoko and how they claimed the bragging rights in the regional derby. That, together with international stories, up next.